Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm kind of aiming that at myself really, rather than you guys. I've been away for quite a while. Must be nearly 14 months now since I last posted something on YouTube. But hopefully that's all about to change. If you're new here, new to the channel, my name's Martin. And the channel primarily was and still remains a record of what I get up to post-retirement, the sort of adventures that we get up to. And those are really already underway. When I last posted on YouTube, I'd sold my cottage in Cambridgeshire and moved temporarily down to Wiltshire. Then began the search for a new home, a new house. That proved to be successful, and I now have a new home in Lincolnshire, much closer to the family. But simultaneous to that, I also embarked on a search for a narrowboat. That has also proved to be successful, and I am now underway on the waterways. And the idea being that the house will prove as provide a base for me when I want to go and see, or when I need to go and see the family. And the boat is a means of me exploring, me finding adventure and interest around the waterways. So that's where I am at the moment. If you're a regular to the channel before me sort of going AWOL, you'll have heard about my plans. If you haven't seen that, there is a video that explains what I set out to do, and pretty much I've kind of stuck to most of it. So I'll leave a link for that down below. When I last spoke, or one of the last vlogs that I did, I was in a kind of a limbo really. Lots of rushing around, lots of spending money, and not having a great deal to show for it. And if I'm honest, I was getting a little bit despondent. Then in January of last year, 2023, things started to get very real. I was starting to see results from the efforts, and I was sort of having to juggle a balancing act between Wiltshire, the boat, the house, up and down the country, backwards and forwards, and I had to, it was all getting too much, and I had to put vlogging on a bit of a back burner. I did manage a few short videos, and I've taken a number of photos that record the progress of the various projects, but I wasn't really able to edit them into a recognisable format that I could post on the channel. These records in no way tell the detail of the story or what I've been up to, but they do show some of the progress. What I'm going to do over the next few weeks is try and piece these things together and produce something that might help to fill in the gaps of the last 12 or 14 months or whatever it's been, and hopefully it'll prove of interest. I may have posted, although I can't actually remember whether I have done or not yet, but in late December, early January 22 to 23, following the survey on the boat, there was a lot of structural work that needed doing. That was carried out in January of 23, and the boat was put back in the water. I have got some footage of that. But following that, I commenced a journey up the Grand Union Canal, about 4 days worth, up to a mooring that was going to see me through, where I could store the boat to see me through the winter, while I upgraded a lot of the dated items in the boat, the electronics and the electrical systems first and foremost, but also some of the cabinetry and so on and so forth. So I've got some records of that, and again I shall try and piece them together in something meaningful. In terms of the cottage, there was also some sort of improvements to do there. Some of the kitchen needed revamping, a new floor in the lounge, and one or two other bits and pieces. And again, I've got some mainly photographs of those. I wanted to get the job done, and I wasn't really in a position to do videos of those, but hopefully again I can piece it together in a way that it'll show the progress, and if nothing else, which is primarily what the channel set out to achieve, was it'll actually give me a record of what I've done so that when I'm really old and decrepit, or older and more decrepit, it'll act as a sort of an aide-memoire to what I've got up to in the last however many years. As I say, on the journey from where the boat had the work done to where I wintered it, over, well, it should have been the winter of early 23. It turns out it was there until August. I didn't actually get my act together, or I got lots of work done on it and lots of work on the house, but I didn't actually embark on cruising until sort of the end of August, early September of 23. But I have got footage of it all, and I've got footage of the cruise from Northamptonshire up to Leicestershire where I stored the boat. The unfortunate thing is that footage isn't sort of exhaustive. For my sins, I rather foolishly clamped my activity camera, my sort of GoPro, to a rather silly part of the boat with a sort of clip, and an hour or two later, I'm not sure when, I noticed it wasn't there, and presumably the vibration of the boat and the engine, the clip just slowly eased its way off, and the camera sprang off and disappeared into the canal. I could have searched the canal, it's waterproof, so it would have been fine until the battery ran out, but of course I didn't know whereabouts it was, and not having scuba diving gear, I wasn't in a position to go hunting for it. So that was a costly error, and one that I shall remember next time if and when I'm able to replace that camera. As I say, I've done some work on the house. I got the keys and moved in February of last year, so that sort of put a little bit more pressure on, and again that's why I didn't vlog anymore. The boat and the house at this stage were some 60 miles apart, which it was only just over an hour's journey. It was a good sort of drive, it was a good trip, just over an hour apart, so it wasn't the end of the world. I was able to get there quite regularly, and normally what I would do is travel over there, probably stay overnight or maybe for a couple of nights, then travel back, do a bit more on the house, etc, etc. I think you get the message there. Winter rolled into spring and then into summer. Yeah, I know, shocker, who knew? Once we got into sort of approaching August bank holiday, I realised that if I didn't get sort of my act together and set off on the boat, this is, summer would be over, and I'd once again be cruising in darkening skies and tramping round on muddy towpaths. So after a concerted effort, I got some of my electrical upgrades sorted out, if not complete. They're at least manageable. So when September 23 came round, I was ready to set off into the wide blue yonder, or at least the lovely and unassuming Leicestershire countryside, on my journey to nowhere in particular, really. Sorry about that. I had to change the battery. The battery ran out, wouldn't you know it. So where was I? Oh yeah, and relax. For the first time since retirement, because that's kind of how it felt, I had nowhere to be and no timetable to adhere to. And so this is what retirement was supposed to be like. It was great. So it's now March 24 as I record this. I've travelled around about 105 miles around the waterways, all in the same direction, just about. And I've negotiated 75 locks. I've not seen the family as often as I would like to. The idea of moving to the cottage in Lincolnshire was to be closer to the family. I've kind of been a little bit wrapped up in the sort of boat mode and the excitement of it all, but now that I've been home a few times and I've got confidence about leaving the boat unattended for, you know, a week at a time, I plan to get back a lot more. Travelling by train, at least so far anyway, travelling by train has been really easy. I can get a train to either the town close to where I live, well, either there's two towns close to where I live. My parents can pick me up at one end and a mate of mine can pick me up at the other, so, you know, it's great. Got myself an old person's rail card. That helps to knock some of the costs off, so that's great too. So how would things stand now? And what about the future and future adventures? Well, I still hope to make it to Wick and Fen this summer of 24, to see the guys back at work, in inverted commas, and then carry on along the Great Ouse to the end to Bedford. I've also got some more improvements to do on the boat. Once spring comes round, it's a little bit easier to do the sort of carpentry that needs doing on the boat. I mean, there is a little bit of electrical stuff still to do, which I suppose if I got my act together I could be doing that through the winter, but there's so many other things to be doing, you know, off the boat. So the carpentry, I did try to do some this winter on the boat, but it's in a confined space. When you're sawing timber, it can get really messy, and to be perfectly honest, it got very disheartening sawing up timber and clearing up sawdust and putting tools away and losing tools and not knowing where things were for days on end. So I kind of put a stop to that. It's not possible to do it out on the towpath. The towpaths are muddy, and trampling mud backwards and forwards inside the boat is also a bit counterproductive. So I've put the upgrades of the boat on hold until I would say drier weather, but at least till the towpaths are in a better condition. I'm not worried about the temperature. I can work outside. I've got clothes for all sorts of eventualities, but it's just working outside on a muddy path backwards and forwards. It isn't very helpful. I'm also, and it's what I've been doing as I've sort of trundled along the waterways, and when I said there's always, you know, there's better things to be doing, is that exploring business. I had a rather prolonged stay in Loughborough, kind of forced on me a little bit, when the rivers Soar and Trent were in flood over sort of November, December, or whenever it was. So I was kind of stuck in Loughborough for a few weeks, and discovered that Loughborough has the only, this is going to sound very geeky, but it was very interesting, the only bell foundry remaining in the UK. There's also a really, really good steam railway. Also sounds geeky, but it was also very interesting in Loughborough, the Great Central Railway. I've recorded some of that. Some of the villages that I've passed through, one that's just a few days ago, for instance, it's right on the edge of the Bosworth battlefield, which has now moved. Who knew? But the village that I went through, or went past rather, sits on a hill, and it's on that hill that Henry Tudor became Henry VII and was crowned using King Richard's crown that had been found in a thorn bush. So, and I went to the Bosworth Heritage Centre, Battle of Bosworth Heritage Centre. So there's stuff, interesting stuff, and some interesting villages and some nice little walks. So I'm recording all of those as well. And again, I shall, up to now, I have a little bit of footage, quite a lot of photos, which I'll try and get pieced together with a little bit of dialogue in order to make something interesting of it. And I shall try and post that as well. So, if you have stuck with this channel through the fallow months, thank you so much. If you're new here, please subscribe. We've got some ducks going berserk outside. They tend to do that at this time of the year. Anyway, where was I? Yes, if you did stick with me through the fallow months, thank you so much. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. There'll be some good stuff coming along as well, or at least I hope it's good stuff coming along as well. Give this one a thumbs up, and ding the old bell if you want to hear when I do post some more. I'm going to try really hard. I want to dedicate a couple of afternoons a week, instead of going on a walk or whatever. I want to dedicate a couple of afternoons a week to clearing up the backlog, as it were, and try and get some stuff out. So I'm hoping to get one out once a week. So if you want to know about those, ding the old bell, and I'll see you soon. So cheerio, bye.